And that's how the 2025 season ends. 7-9-1 is the final record, as 34-17 the Giants moving to 4-13 on the year. They snap a 10-game winning streak for your Dallas Cowboys, as the Giants getting the win today. Cowboys, though, when you look at what's going on across the rest of the National Football League, with the Falcons having defeated the Saints, and congratulations now to the Carolina Panthers.
Panthers in, yeah.
They will be your NFC South champions. The Vikings beating the Packers today, who sat a lot of players at 16-3. Cowboys are now going to be sitting with the 12th overall pick, and they've got a chance to go as high as the 11th overall selection if Miami can upset New England. So right now you're sitting at picks 12 and 20 because Green Bay moves a spot down with the loss to Minnesota. So for those of you that were coming in like, hey, what are you playing for anyway? Just go ahead and lose the game. The draft pick's what really matters. There you go. Cowboys were able to get up to the 12th pick there with the loss. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus.
It might get to 11 depending on what happens, as you mentioned, with the Dolphins, who are playing pretty well right now. Maybe they want to go out on a good note here. There's some questions about their head coach. Fired the general manager earlier in the year, but yeah, New England might be in a situation too with everything kind of locked up, right? Am I right about that? They still need to determine who the...
I think the 1 seed still up for grabs there. So they're going to be playing for possibly the top seed there in the AFC.
Yeah.
Unless they'll be monitoring what's happening in the Denver game because it's them, Denver. I think Jacksonville's still in play for the top overall seed. So New England certainly has a lot to play for.
New England does have something to play for.
They're not going to be sitting there, guys, but hey, maybe we're turning to the DFW kid, Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and pull a rabbit out of your head, as Jason Witten would say?
Rabbit out of your head for sure. Well, if that's the case, then sitting in the 12th spot, you're probably in pretty good shape. And then what's going to happen with the Packers are in the playoffs? Likely going to have to go to Chicago or to Philadelphia.
Yep.
With that being the case, I mean, heck, have a better chance of probably, But that means if the Packers were to lose in the playoffs, well, we'll see, because now all these things are popping in my head. Carolina has a worse record, at 8-9 with that, right? So if they were to lose in the first round of the playoffs, they would probably be ahead of Green Bay.
Yes, they'd pick 19. So the highest it could be is it's probably sitting there at 20, where the Packers are right now. So best case scenario, I think you're looking at picks 11 and 20 if you can get lucky and Miami can upset New England. But right now, 12 and 20, you're sitting with 2 top 20 picks, and we'll see what happens with Green Bay in the postseason as they rested their starters today in a loss. But 34-17, Giants end the Cowboys season at 7-9-1, first losing season, back-to-back losing seasons since you were working with the organization back in 2002. I believe it was the Dave Campo years, where it was 3 straight 5-11 campaigns. Official postgame show brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching and want to use what the pros use. Jack Black is the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit GetJackBlack.com today. Gosh darn it, I made it through the majority of the season.
How about that?
And that one didn't trip me up, but it tripped me up last year quite a few times. This year was pretty strong. All right, 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text in the official postgame show of your Cowboys, 877-881-1053, as we put a bow on this season. One final ride. Thank you so much for hanging out with us throughout the entire season. But obviously, Brian, just to put a bow on this game, for the defense, it was much of the same. A lot of missed tackles, a lot of silly penalties that extended Giant drives. You had their first 100-yard rusher in 23 games. So that was Tyrone Tracy Jr., who ran for $103. There was big chunk plays in the air. Jackson Dart able to get that shovel pass for a touchdown right before the half. Dak did not play in the second half. It was the Joe Milton show. And you saw a little bit of some struggles there with the interception, but the running game was good.
To be honest with you, I don't know if Dak playing in this game that the Cowboys win, how poorly the defense was playing today. And Jackson Dart, once again, give the rookie quarterback, a lot of credit here. I mean, he was good last week against the Vegas Raiders, but Dallas's defense is just horrendous, and the way they tackle, the way they play the scheme. And listen, there were a lot of starters out there that were getting pushed around by an offensive line that, overall just not very good. Kenny Clark getting pushed around. We saw the problems. Logan Wilson playing a lot at linebacker. Finally had enough of Kenneth Murray playing, but hell, I don't know. Dallas might have been in a situation defensively. It might have been another one of those shootouts that they had earlier in the season with the way that Dallas's defense was playing. So there was really no guarantee if you had to go find a way to win this game. It's been this way all year long with this defense. They just do not fit well. They do not tackle well. They do not cover well, and they get absolutely no pressure. So now what it turns into, and Babe Laufenberg said it, you might have to go out and get 6 or 7 new starters. And it's just not going to be, okay, let's show up and draft and hope for the best, with those picks we're talking about with 11 and 20. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do more. This season and how bad your defense has been is likely going to force you to go out and spend money.
Yep.
And try and I'm not talking about bottom fishing money.
No, you got to get starters.
Yeah, you got to go.
Players
yeah,
that
you got to go
plug and play.
You got to absolutely go. So yeah, that's where I kind of feel like that. That the Cowboys say if they roll back into this and it's okay, we tag George Pickens and we're just going to worry about the draft, then we're going to be in the same spot next year. You have got to make massive changes in the personnel with the defense, and you're likely going to be making a change at the defensive coordinator spot as well.
Yeah, it does seem that way, and I think it's a change that probably needs to be made, and maybe for Matt Eberflus, that'll benefit him. Maybe the year off will also be something that he needed. I know there's been a lot of conversation about that. The way things ended in Chicago for him was certainly difficult, and he just jumps right back into it. We've seen some other defensive coordinators, Dan Quinn being one, which I know you've referenced as well, was able to take a year off, comes back, kind of reinvents himself a little bit. But certainly this was a bad fit all the way around. Yeah. Flus, the way the players played today, I saw some chatter on social media. You're going out there and you're trying to fight for maybe your coach's job. And I don't know. I think that I've stressed it all year. I think that it is very a talent-deficient defense. I don't think the personnel is necessarily good enough right now, but the coach certainly didn't help things at all. We didn't see an improvement from anybody on the defense, and really, what were your 2 best players, Quinnen Williams and Jadeveon Clowney, and they weren't even here when the season started.
Not even when the season started, yeah. And folks on the text are asking us to hammer Jerry about the offseason and spend money. I think you got Jerry Jones's attention. I think Jerry Jones looking at this season right now at 82 years old, not guaranteed tomorrow. And I know that sounds morbid in a way to say, but if, in fact, he has got to do something different, and he has the capability of doing that. He could tell Steven and Will, hey, this is what we're going to do. You find ways to spend the money. Let's evaluate the players. But if they don't, then absolutely, Jerry Jones needs to continually get hammered. And I think that we do hammer Jerry Jones on things. I think there are a lot of questions that he was responsible, him and Will and Steven responsible for the hire of Matt Eberflus. And they thought Matt Eberflus was going to do a really, really good job. And Matt Eberflus has, for the most part, before and previous stops, has done a good job. Maybe that should tell you that your players that you have are not good enough too.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a combination of the two.
And you better go out and fix that. And I think this season got his attention for that.
Yeah, and Jerry's saying, before the game, don't blame it all on Flus. This took 5 or 6 years to get here. I can make a case for you that we haven't had a satisfactory defense for 5 or 6 years, really. I think if you look back at some of those 12-5 seasons, 2022 the 22 season, that defense, with Micah and the turnovers they were able to force with Bland and Diggs. Yeah, I think that one was certainly very competitive, but what's hurt them now is you look back at the 2020 draft, and now it's just CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And this is a team that is draft and develop and then re-sign your own.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, they have not gotten the reward on a lot of second contracts with guys.
Yep.
And now I think that, maybe that has changed a little bit of how they want to look at this moving forward. And we like to re-sign our own, but hasn't been good enough. And we do need to go out and probably get some free agents now.
It's nice to re-sign your own when you draft well and do those things. But as you just mentioned, they don't have that luxury anymore.
No.
If you go back and look at how they've, some of the guys, the first round picks that they had, a lot of them they haven't given, second contracts to and kind of moved on from. So, drafting and development is one thing when it's working. And right now, at least for this season defensively, It has not worked.
And you've got an offense right now that's ready to go.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's probably your biggest positive from where we ended the season a year ago to today, is going into the offseason last year, you were dealing with Dak coming off of injury. You didn't know how he was going to look.
Yeah.
You had no idea who the play caller was going to be. You didn't know what the offense was going to look like. And, we were all kind of expecting you're going to have a new head coach after Mike McCarthy would go. Well, now, Brian Schottenheimer in the offense was pretty darn good for the majority of this year.
Yeah.
There's certainly things that we have, gone ahead and nitpicked here and there, and rightly so, whether it's the lack of touchdowns in the second half, the red zone efficiency, third down efficiency at times. For a period, it was all right. They'd start the game slow. Then they went on and went ahead and said, okay, we're going to fix that, but then we got the second half stuff that's popping up. So certainly not perfect, and I think Shotty will be the first one to say, I need to look in the mirror, and we'll assess things, but you're in a pretty good spot offensively, you're feeling like, but defense, gosh, this whole thing needs a total rebuild. Tear down and rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you have to go in there. You can't get rid of everybody, but my gosh, you could sure try and replace most of them, and they're going to need, defensive tackle. That's probably not an area they'll look at, but linebackers, the edges. We talk about it a bunch. This is a team that just does not get any type of real pressure. They don't finish. I mean, you've allowed offensive linemen who are not really NFL caliber offensive linemen to block you. That's unfortunate right there, that you can't, you feel like that your pass rush is good enough to be able to win, and you're not winning nearly enough. So the corners, the safeties, the linebackers, I think everything, the coordinator, I think everything's up for evaluation.
Every single level of this thing, and Steven told you guys, G-Bag Nation on the flagship 105.3 The Fan, identity. Yeah. They need to find an identity on defense. It does not, nothing's official. I'd be pretty stunned if Matt Eberflus was back. It does, just kind of reading the tea leaves. Yeah, I would probably say that he won't be.
I don't think he will.
Nothing's been officially decided, but yeah, because people are texting like, did you hear that he's gone? Nothing's official, but I think that most likely he's not here.
How can you look at this with your own eyeballs and think there's a disconnect here? There's nothing, as you mentioned. They didn't get better in any real area. Nobody really improved. I mean, Clowney came off the couch, one of your better players. You had to trade, you had to basically trade your best player to get a chance to draft, Quinnen Williams. This thing needs a complete overhaul. And if they don't overhaul it, then they're in for the same thing that they were this past season. You can't go into this 2026 season just thinking everything status quo is going to be fine. You just can't do it. Starts with the coordinator, starts with the position coaches on the defensive side of the ball, and work from there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, in game, I think you and I are pretty similar in this, Brian, where when the Cowboys are playing, we want them to win.
I want them to win. I want them to win today. And that's a team that talked about optics and how things were going to look and all that. And the more I watched that game, the more I thought, hell, there's a chance if Dak would have had to play that whole game and they were going to go get a win, that might not be the case today. You just didn't. I mean, you let the Giants, who have not had a 100-yard rusher in 23 straight games, have a 100-yard rusher today. You commit stupid penalties. You get teams in third down. You can't get off the field.
Donovan Ezra-Rocker gets ejected.
You just do. We talk about things, and again, this goes on Brian Schottenheimer too. You talk about discipline and things, and defensively, this team does so many things that's just ridiculous that causes them not to win games.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of penalties today, you had 9 for 94, and there were some that directly led to Giant points.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, the one with Kenneth Murray was just unforgivable on the sideline. I mean, it took away, you had a Donovan Ezra-Rocker sack. You say, all right, we don't want to take that because of the tripping call. And then the next play, basically, it's, here's Kenneth Murray just giving that one back. Maybe that's why you didn't see him a lot in the second half, possibly. And the one thing, and I like a lot of the discipline and some of the stuff that Shotty's tried to do building the culture, because I think over the last, and I think this is 4 years you and I have done this together in the postgame, there has been a lot of conversation about lack of accountability, about a lack of discipline and people just being able to do whatever they want.
Well, they got
country club mentality.
They got rid of Diggs. They got rid of Diggs because of that.
And I'm for that stuff.
Yeah.
But the one question that I then would have is, okay, when do we see the culture reflect on the football field? And I don't.
What is the culture right now?
We didn't see it today, at least.
No.
I mean, it was not a very inspired effort on the field whatsoever. You got completely punked by a bad Giants football team.
Yeah.
And during the game, it made me sick to my stomach to see as a Cowboy fan.
Yeah.
Post game, we can have all right, hey, you got the 12th overall pick in the draft. Let's go ahead and work this thing and draft it up. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But as somebody, when you watch and you're invested as a fan and you want to see your team succeed, it was really a disgusting performance all the way around.
All the way around.
We got a little positivity from Jaden Ballou today. It's nice to see him, and hopefully he can carry some momentum next year.
And you know what's unfortunate is the fact that he didn't want to be a football player until week 18. He didn't want to do the things necessary to be a guy active, on game day.
Glass half full, maybe that's one. Maybe that's where we can see the culture reflected.
Yeah.
And maybe Blue learned some things about how to be a pro. And he was able today.
I think he had to play because of necessity. It was nice to see him get out there and run the way he did.
No, you're probably right. If Williams and Malik Davis are able to play.
If those guys, you're probably like finding a way to run the football with those guys until you make some changes and stuff. But it's disappointing that he's found ways to move on from guys. He did it with Diggs.
They
moved on. So hopefully that they can do more of that.
All right, 877-881-1053. We'll get your calls and texts on the official finale, the final post game show of 2025.